Here's the thing that I have really struggled with is the national media just beats them to a pulp and thinks that they're terrible. This team went 8-1 last year and got better. I have yet to meet someone who does not think they are a better team than they were last season. And they went 8-1. And Carson Wentz was dog you-know-what for the first 7 games of the season. What if they got mediocre QB play? What if they had an offense that, functioned like a big boy 2023 or last year 2022 NFL offense? They didn't get either of those things. And by the way, the guy with the highest upside on their defense barely played all year in Chase Young. Not that I'm anticipating Chase having a monster year, but he's back. And they went 8-1. So to say, is it crazy that they're a wild card team? Absolutely not. And expectations-wise, that's the expectation, that they can get to around that 500 mark. My expectation, right, would be they'd be around that 500 mark and going into December and fighting for a playoff spot, and we'll see what happens. I don't get great vibes out of what's going on in Dallas. I got concerns there. I got concerns with some of these other teams. Eagles, 49ers, fine, but also who's playing quarterback for the 49ers to start the season, and what happens if Sam Darnold plays well and there's a quarterback controversy, or he doesn't and Brock Purdy's not ready. There are questions all around. It is a really tough division. I have no misgivings about the fact that they're playing a very inexperienced quarterback in Sam Howell, and that he could go bottoms up, and that could blow up in their face, and then they're bad and everyone gets fired and all that. But internally, they expect to make the playoffs. I don't think that's crazy. And if they don't, we'll see what happens, because there's a new owner in town, and he might want to bring in some new people.
So week one's always weird. What do you think, though, about the Commanders now, week one in Survivor, when you look at this week one schedule and you see that they're going to host the Arizona Cardinals with no Kyler Murray, most likely. It's going to be Colt McCoy. New coaching staff, rebuilding year, terrible football team. But do you trust Sam Howell, and kind of I'm thinking on the defensive side of the ball. Is Chase Young going to be any good this year? He is playing for a new contract, but they're 6-point favorites. But just to win, would you play them maybe in Survivor against Arizona? Because I think Arizona's going to stink.
I would. I think the two best options on the board are the Ravens at home against the Texans, which probably still is going to be my pick. That's what it was all along. But now that Snyder has sold the team, Ryan, I do love the Commanders. We can just all see week one how electric that stadium is going to be, man. Fans are going to be so excited. They're going to show up. There's going to be this new profound belief that, oh my God, Snyder's gone. We can win again. They're excited to see their new quarterback, Sam Howell. They only got to see him once last year, and they're playing the worst team in football. So I actually do like the Commanders as a Survivor pool pick.
Let me stop you right there, Peach. That's where you're going to make a mistake, and you're going to be knocked out week one.
Yeah?
I'm going to make the case that the Cardinals win week one. It might be their only win of the season, to be honest with you. I think they come to D.C. and they beat the Commanders, and I'll tell you why. Colt McCoy, revenge game against Washington. Just talk about Texas to start things off, because I played Texas at even money, and I also went over the win total, 9.5. You look at their quarterback room. Quinn Ewers is back. If he doesn't get hurt against Bama, I'm sorry to say this, Peach, they were going to win that game.
Agreed.
But here's what I worry about with Ewers. I went back, I watched every single Texas game, which is why my eyeballs feel like they're bleeding. So he was really good. He gets hurt against Bama, right? Then he comes back against Oklahoma. Huge game. Throws 4 touchdown passes. Looks really good. Then after that, though, 4 straight games he goes without completing 60% of his passes, which is what it is. But I bet them against Oklahoma State, and he completed 19 of 49 passes. Then against TCU, I think you were on Texas as well. We were betting against TCU every week. He's the reason they lost that game. He was 17 of 39. So 19 of 49 against OK State, 17 for 39 against that TCU secondary that we saw get absolutely torched by Georgia. Overall, a decent season. If you look at the numbers, 15 touchdowns, 6 picks. I feel like he's going to have to be way better, because now he has Arch Manning on campus breathing down his neck. And also they have Malik Murphy, who I always forget about, and he's a dual-threat quarterback. That's the one thing that scares me about offense, about their offense. Because even after they lose Bijan, you downgrade them, but their freshman C.J. Baxter is probably going to end up being awesome. Their wide receivers are some of the best in the country. Xavier Worthy's back for his junior season. He broke the Texas school record for a freshman last season. He had 9 touchdowns. Jordan Whittingham's their number 2. Jatavion Sanders is their tight end. Last year, he caught 54 balls, which was actually the single-season record for a tight end at Texas. And they have the same 5 O-linemen that started every game last season coming back. So I think they'll have a top 5 offensive line in the country. That's the reason I like them so much. 10 starters back. Last season, they averaged 430 yards per game. Only 35 points per game. I think they're going to be a little bit better even without Bijan, but my only concern would be Quinn Ewers. Is he that guy? I don't think we'll see Arch Manning as a freshman, but that would be my only concern. I love them offensively. What about you? I'm also pretty high on Oklahoma. Let's talk about them because I felt bad. I was on You Bet or You Bet yesterday, and Nick texted me, and he's like, have you bet any college football win totals? And I sent him my list, which is 45 teams long now. And I had Oklahoma 9.5. And then when I went on with them, I was like, I like Oklahoma, but I haven't done anything with them. And I just bet this morning, but I was like putting it as a reminder because I was trying to figure out, do I want to play Oklahoma's win total, or do I want to play Dylan Gabriel, as crazy as this sounds? I don't even love Dylan Gabriel. I like him as a college quarterback, to win Heisman if I get a good price. Because last season, like, the numbers look good. He wasn't great, but the numbers, 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns. But here's the case I can make for Dylan Gabriel and Oklahoma to be good. When he was on the field for 11 games before he got hurt, they averaged over 500 total yards of offense. As far as yardage-wise, that's actually better than the Lincoln Riley offenses. The problem was in the red zone, they were a mess. So they only averaged 37 points per game. But that's still decent. 500 total yards, 37 points per game, year one after Lincoln Riley. Then he gets hurt. The 2 games he didn't play, they averaged 275 yards per game and only 12 points per game. Like, that's a huge drop-off in college football. So if he stays healthy and he puts up numbers like that and they're better, because I also kind of like him better. You lose Eric Gray in the backfield, but I like Marcus Major, and I like the Barnes kid, Javante Barnes. They lose Marvin Mims, but they get Farouk back. Drake Stoops is a decent slot receiver. They get a ton of transfers on the offensive line, 7 starters back, a healthy Dylan Gabriel with some weapons. Would you rather play Oklahoma to win the conference over their win total, or take a shot with him to win the Heisman, or maybe all 3, or any of those?
It's a great question. I think I'd play both, honestly. If I had to choose between the two,
Win total is 9.5. That's the problem, dude.
I don't know what Venables is as a head coach. That's the problem.
Same.
I don't think I like him as a head coach. Like, I just think he's going to be another one of these guys who's a great defensive coordinator, but I don't know if he's a head coach. Like, he might be the next Manny Diaz.
What do you think about Texas Tech, really quick? Because you talked about them earlier on when we were looking at the schedule, looking at good spots. Joey McGuire's back year 2. He won 8 games last year, took him to a bowl game. And they haven't had a quarterback start all 12 games since Patrick Mahomes did it in 2016. So that's pretty impressive, man. What do you think about them this year, though? They got a new OC. Actually, no, Zach Kitty's actually back. So he's back from last year, just running the Western Kentucky offense. 11 starters are back. What do you think about them this season?
One of my favorite under-the-radar Week 1 games is Texas Tech at Wyoming. We talked about Oregon, Texas Tech Week 2. I love me some Craig Bowles, one of my favorite coaches in college football. They're going to have to travel to Laramie and play that game Week 1, Ryan. Ooh, that is tough. You get Wyoming and Oregon back-to-back to start the season. Then you get Tarleton State before opening up BIG-12 play. Now, again, what's nice for Texas Tech, they also avoid Oklahoma. Now, however, they do have to play at Baylor and at Texas this year. The schedule's just too tough. I like McGuire. They've been getting a lot of steam. We talked about that throughout the week. Texas Tech's now plus 900 to win the Big 12. Look, I watched Tyler Shaw at Oregon. Wasn't impressed. He's played a little bit at Texas Tech.
He's always hurt.
He's always hurt, and I do like their offense. The defense is a little spotty. I would probably lean under, though, just because of the schedule.
And one of the teams that really interests me, man, moving forward, is actually Central Florida. I think they're in a great spot the next few years, with Texas leaving especially, because you look at the NIL and how that changes college football. Where do you want to live right now? And where aren't you paying taxes? Florida. So you get to keep most of your NIL money. Also, where's Central Florida going to be able to go recruit? The Florida Pipeline. So I think Central Florida in the Big 12, if it remains an actual thing, a conference, is in good shape, actually, the next couple years, man. This year, though, Plumlee's back at quarterback. He was up and down last season. The last 7 games, he really struggled, but he was also playing with a knee injury, so it's hard to grade him. Running backs, a bunch of dudes competing for playing time. Wide receivers, Javon Baker's back after his 796-yard receiving season. Also, Kobe Hudson's back. He had over 600 yards, and they bring back their tight end, Holler, as well. O-line, 126 career starts back. So my question is, like, with 8 starters back, but stepping up in class, do you think there's a drop-off at all for a UCF offense?
I don't.
No?
No, I like John Rice Plumlee, and because what I like is the experience of Gus being in the SEC.
But I'm going to be so nice, PJ, that get out your pen and your paper. Every single win total that I bet right here. Ready?
Yep.
Arizona State, under 5. Arizona, under 5.5. Wisconsin, over 8.5. Miami, over 7.5. Maryland, over 6.5. Pitt, 5 times, over 6.5.
Okay.
Love Pitt this year. Texas State, over 4.5. Kansas, under 6.5. Wouldn't touch it at 5.5.
Okay.
Buffalo, under 7. Memphis, over 7 and 7.5. Love Memphis this year. San Jose State, over 5.5. Florida Atlantic, our Owls, Tom Herman, Casey Thompson, over 7.5 wins, 6 times. UTEP, over 5 wins. Florida State, we stayed away from because we played Clemson over 9.5 wins, and we also played Clemson to win the ACC and the Natty. Texas, over 9.5 wins, 3 times. Texas, even money to win the Big 12. We're going to add Oklahoma over 9.5 wins tonight at midnight. Vandy, over 3.5 wins twice. I like Vandy. And then Nebraska, under 6.5 wins.